In October 1943, the United States Navy allegedly conducted one of the most terrifying secret experiments in history. The goal: make a warship completely invisible not just to the eye, but to radar, to sonar, to everything. According to the story, it worked. But what happened next was something no one had planned for. Sailors caught fire. Others were found embedded, physically fused into the metal walls of the ship. Some went permanently insane. And a few simply vanished, never to be seen again. The US Navy has denied all of it. But the story has never gone away. This is the Philadelphia experiment, and the truth is stranger than almost anyone realizes. Welcome back to the hidden archive where history hides its secrets. Today we're going deep into one of the most controversial and disturbing alleged cover UPS in US military history. Subscribe if you're new here. New mystery every week. Let's get into it. The Philadelphia experiment, officially known as Project Rainbow, allegedly took place on October 28, 1943, at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in Pennsylvania. According to the story, the US Navy used experimental technology based on the work of physicist Albert Einstein to generate a powerful electromagnetic field around a Navy destroyer called the USS Eldridge. The claimed goal was degaussing, reducing the ship's magnetic signature so enemy mines and torpedoes couldn't detect it. But the experiment allegedly went much further than that. Witnesses claimed the USS Eldridge didn't just become magnetically invisible. It became optically invisible. A greenish fog reportedly surrounded the ship, and then the ship was gone. Completely vanished from the Philadelphia harbor. What happened next, according to the accounts, was even more disturbing. The ship allegedly reappeared not in Philadelphia, but 375 kilometers away in Norfolk, Virginia. Then, within minutes, teleported back to Philadelphia. The entire event supposedly lasted only a few seconds of observable time. But for the sailors on board, the experience was catastrophic. This is the part of the story that is most disturbing and most debated. According to eyewitness accounts, when the ship rematerialized in Philadelphia, the crew was in a state of complete horror. Some sailors were on fire, burning with a blue flame that couldn't be extinguished. Others were paralyzed, stuck in a frozen, trance-like state that lasted days. Several went permanently insane and had to be institutionalized. But the most disturbing claim: some sailors had been physically merged with the ship itself. Their bodies fused into the metal walls, the deck, the equipment. Alive, but embedded in solid steel. 5 sailors were officially listed as missing. Never found. The Navy, according to the story, immediately classified everything. Survivors were sworn to secrecy. Official records were altered or destroyed. And the USS Eldridge was quietly reassigned. Here is where things get complicated and genuinely strange. The Philadelphia experiment story first appeared publicly in the late 1950s through the writings of a man named Carl M. Allen, also known as Carlos Allende, a former merchant marine who claimed to have witnessed the experiment from a nearby ship. Allen wrote a series of bizarre, handwritten notes in the margins of a book about unified field theory, a physics concept Einstein was working on near the end of his life. He sent these annotated copies to researchers and eventually to the US Navy itself. His writing was erratic, inconsistent, and hard to follow. By most accounts, Carl Allen was not a reliable witness. But here is the strange part. When researchers began looking into the official records of the USS Eldridge, they found something unexpected. According to the ship's official deck logs, which are public record, the USS Eldridge was not even in Philadelphia on October 28, 1943. It was somewhere else entirely. This should have ended the story. But instead, It made believers more convinced because if the government altered the ship's logs, that would be exactly what you'd expect from a cover-up. Let's look at this from a scientific perspective. The experiment was allegedly based on Einstein's unified field theory, an attempt to connect electromagnetism and gravity in one equation. Einstein worked on this for decades but never completed it. The theory, even today, remains unfinished. Physics experts have consistently said that no electromagnetic field of any known type could bend light around a ship to make it optically invisible, let alone teleport it across hundreds of kilometers. The idea of a ship teleporting between two physical locations violates everything we understand about matter, energy, and space. However, and this is important, there are two elements of the story that are scientifically real. First, degaussing is a genuine and widely used naval technique. Wrapping electrical cables around a ship to neutralize its magnetic signature was standard practice in World War II to protect against magnetic mines. Second, there was a classified program called Project Rainbow, though its actual goals were far more mundane than what Alan described. The question is whether anyone took that real, boring technology and tried to push it into something far more dangerous. Here is the core problem with the Philadelphia experiment. Every piece of direct evidence, eyewitness accounts, documents, photographs, traces back to Carl Allen and a small circle of people who all reference each other. There are no independent witnesses who have been verified. The sailors who allegedly went insane, no hospital records have ever been found. The sailors who disappeared, their names do not appear in any official missing persons records from 1943. The USS Eldridge itself survived the war, was transferred to Greece in 1951, and was eventually sold for scrap in 1999. Several former crew members from the actual ship gave interviews over the years, and without exception, they said nothing unusual happened. No experiment. No fog. No teleportation. One surviving crew member said simply, "It's a fantasy. We were a regular Navy ship doing regular Navy work." So here is the twist. The Philadelphia experiment almost certainly did not happen the way it has been described. The evidence is too thin, the physics too impossible, and the primary source too unreliable. But that doesn't make the story useless. What the Philadelphia experiment actually represents is something important about how human beings respond to traumatic events. Many of the sailors who served in World War II came back with what we now call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. In 1943, there was no name for it, no treatment, and no acknowledgement from the military. Some researchers believe the insane sailors in the story were real men, real veterans who broke down after the horrors of war, and that their experiences were mythologized into something supernatural because the truth was too uncomfortable to talk about. Real suffering, unexplained by the world around them, turned into legend. That's a story that repeats throughout history. And maybe that's what the Philadelphia experiment really was. The Philadelphia experiment has been investigated by journalists, physicists, historians, and conspiracy researchers for over 60 years. And the conclusion is always the same: compelling story, not enough evidence. But it has never stopped being fascinating. Because it sits at the exact intersection of real history, real science, and human imagination. Did the US Navy accidentally open a door to something they couldn't control, or is the entire story the creation of one unstable man with a pen and too much time? Leave your theory in the comments. Subscribe to The Hidden Archive, a new mystery, every week, where history hides its secrets. End.